iOS 13 and new iPhone 2019 rumors. I just woke up today here in China to this article from Bloomberg, so I want to go through what they're telling us in this, react to what I think we're going to get in the 2019 iPhone. 2019 is a really big year for Apple. They're really not doing too well at the moment. Their last quarter results were still amazing, but not as good as people expected. The iPhone not doing too well here in China. I'm in Shenzhen right now where the iPhone is made. I think mainly it's just because of the price. In China, the iPhone XS is about 15–20% more expensive than it is for exactly the same phone outside of China. In the US, you need to pay about $1,000 plus a little bit of tax for the iPhone XS. Here in China, that's $1,200. You can go on Tmall here and buy an iPhone for I think about 8,500 RMB. The Huawei Mate 20 Pro, which goes toe-to-toe with the iPhone XS in a lot of ways, is about 5,500 RMB. I don't think there's that much of a difference between those two phones. So iPhone not doing too well in China, big market for them. What are they going to come out with to persuade consumers to buy a new iPhone in 2019? Let's have a look. Let's start with iOS 13. The main point from this article is that we might be getting a dark mode at last, eventually getting a dark mode for the iPhone. I think this is definitely possible, and I think it should be implemented in iOS 13. The iPhone has an AMOLED screen now, and it just makes sense that you put some dark modes on there so people can save a little bit of battery life, but also I just prefer dark mode. I use dark mode on Twitter. It just saves your eyes. It just looks a bit better. At night time, you don't have to strain. You don't have to turn the brightness up on your phone. It just works. You can save battery life and it just looks a bit better. Apple has to bring something new, something creative to spark interest in the new iPhone this year. Actually, on my iPhone now, I just put a black screensaver on the back of the phone. I don't have any color on there. I just take a black picture and put that on the back of the phone. That's how much I like dark mode. I want everything black except for app icons and text. So I really hope we get that mode in iOS 13. What do you think about dark mode? Is that something that you would use on the iPhone? Is it something that you would switch directly to and never go back to the normal mode? Maybe it's not something you've been asking for, maybe it is. I know a lot of people want dark mode, maybe some people don't mind either way. I think if you're an iPhone user, anything that can save even a little bit of battery life is probably a good idea. Moving on to hardware, the article says that Apple are testing out a new camera system, so they may add a third lens to the camera, this being an ultra wide lens on the back there. I would say this is probably absolutely certain. Now, I don't know whether this is going to be just for the XS or it'd be 11 Max, or whether it's going to be on the 11 and the 11 Max. We've seen more and more wide angle lenses come onto phones, especially here in China. A lot of the manufacturers here are adding the ultra wide angle to their phones. The Mate 20 series has that ultra wide angle camera. Whenever I test those phones, I absolutely love that ultra wide angle camera. It is so much more useful. It gives, in my opinion, way better images than the telephoto. The telephoto, it's been out for a long time now in the iPhone and other phones, but I don't really see people using it that much. I don't use it that much. When I see people using their phones, they don't use the telephoto that often. Having a wide angle is way more useful. I use it more often. The Mate 20 Pro has a wide angle. It just takes amazing pictures. It's something that an iPhone should definitely have. We've seen Samsungs with 4 cameras on the back, so it's definitely going to happen. I would say that's definitely going to happen, and I'm looking forward to it. It gives us way more options in the phone when you have that wide angle. It may be something Apple saves for the bigger phone, the 11 Max. I hope it comes to the small phone as well. Those renders there are putting the camera system in the middle. I think it looks good. We've seen some other rumors having that sort of square on the corner, the square looking a lot like what Huawei did with their phones. But I think having a long sort of rectangular system is much more likely. It just fits in with the Apple design aesthetic. I think that big square, maybe it doesn't look very good compared to the sort of more rectangular option. But we'll have to see how Apple can fit that lens into the system back there. I'm not sure if they're going to move it to the middle. I thought Face ID in the middle there at the front was such a big unit that they couldn't put the back camera in the middle. Maybe they figured out a way to make Face ID a little bit smaller, and they've managed a way to put that back camera into the middle. If they don't put it in the middle, I think they'll keep it vertically on the left side and just add maybe another camera on the bottom. It looks like the flash is actually a ring around the middle camera. We've actually seen this in Samsung phones, so the technology is there, and I think it looks the best. Having a flash sort of randomly placed inside of a square doesn't really look that good. I don't think Apple would do that. So maybe they're going to go for a long camera bump with the LED flash around the middle lens. The article also suggests we'll get a better zoom, so maybe 3 or up to 5 times optical zoom. Oppo here in China a couple of weeks ago came out with a 25 times optical zoom camera unit. Obviously that's not in any working phones yet, but their technology is there. It just makes sense that they'll maybe add some zoom onto there. They have to step it up every time they release an iPhone. Maybe 3 times zoom, maybe 5 times zoom. 2 times zoom is pretty useful sometimes, although that telephoto I don't really use that much. If it was 5 times optical zoom, I think that gives you a lot of options. You can get some really good shots even though you're quite far away from something. 5 times optical zoom is a really long distance. I really hope that comes to the iPhone. I think the ultra wide is way more likely than 5 times optical zoom. Maybe we'll get 2 or 3 times optical zoom plus that ultra wide camera. I'm really hoping that ultra wide camera also has optical image stabilization, but it might be quite expensive. They might not implement it. I love optical image stabilization. I think the iPhone is probably the best phone out there for real true optical image stabilization, especially in video. Enhanced live photo. I never use live photo. A lot of people like it, a lot of people use it all the time. I personally don't use it. 6 seconds live photo is obviously going to be a software update. They don't need to do anything to the hardware to add that functionality on. Maybe it's something you would like. Do you use live photo? I don't use live photo ever. Would you be excited about having 6 seconds of video before your picture? Let me know if that's something that would sway you to upgrade your phone over the one that you have at the moment. The article mentions USB-C, which has been mentioned 1,000 times before. It's something that I don't think will come to the new iPhone. Apple always seem to want to cordon off the iPhone from any other device. They want to keep that in its separate ecosystem. I think the Lightning connector has been around too long for it to be replaced. What do you think? Do you prefer USB-C? Would you want USB-C in the new iPhone? I personally use wireless charging virtually all of the time anyway. I haven't used a Lightning connector for months and months, but there are some times when you need it. USB-C would definitely be more useful for people, just having one connector across all devices, Android or computers or the iPhone. But given Apple's track record, maybe they're testing out devices with USB-C charging, but I think the final product will keep the Lightning connector. With manufacturers here in China taking away ports, we've seen that Apex 2019 not having any ports whatsoever. Meizu also released a concept phone that had no ports. It's obviously the future. Updated Face ID is definitely welcome. Hopefully they'll put some new hardware in there, couple that with a few software updates. I hope Face ID gets better. I like Face ID, it's very secure, but it is slow, especially compared to fingerprint sensors. It's a really sunny day today. Using my phone, it just takes quite a long time to open the phone if it's too bright, or if you're in really a dark room, it just takes a while to unlock, or it just doesn't recognize you at all and you have to put the code in. There are no rumors about an optical image sensor under the iPhone screen. You've seen almost all Chinese manufacturers here put an optical fingerprint sensor under the screen now. But Apple apparently, even with this article, which goes through a lot of improvements in the iPhone, doesn't mention a fingerprint scanner under the screen. The technology is there. Again, the Vivo Apex 2019 has fingerprint sensing across the whole screen. Xiaomi have also released a version that uses way more of the screen to scan your fingerprint. The technology is there and it would be super useful to have that in the iPhone. But I think Apple made the decision just to go with Face ID and nothing else. What do you think about the rumors? Is it enough to make you upgrade? Are you excited again about the iPhone lineup. Is Apple sticking a wide angle camera on the back there enough to make you upgrade from your current iPhone? What would Apple need to put on the phone for you to upgrade, for you to spend the $1,000+ buying a new iPhone this year?